Not long ago, architutors published an e-book, Promptitecture, 101 prompts designed to stretch the imagination of architecture. Sounds cool, right? I thought, why not test them out with AI? Let's dive in. So here's what Promptitecture is all about. More than 100 AI prompts for architecture and design, tested and refined. You can still get your copy at the architutors store. This book means a lot to me. It's dedicated to my brother, my first teacher, the person who set me on the path to architecture. The method is simple. Copy a prompt, tweak the variables, and feed it into any AI platform. Nano Banana, Gemini, AI Studio, ChatGPT, Meta AI. No matter where you run it, the prompts spark fresh results. And we'll be testing every one of those prompts in this video. We have covered it all, from architectural drawing and interior design to sustainable and futuristic ideas. Let's kick things off by testing prompts on architectural drawing and drafting. Stick around, it gets exciting. First off, rendering floor plans. Here's how the process works. We start with the prompt structure from the book. It's like a template. The main sentence is fixed, but inside it you'll see variables in brackets. Things like style, lighting, detail level. We copy that structure into an AI platform, say Gemini with Nano Banana switched on. Then we upload the floor plan image we want rendered. Now comes the fun part. We go back to the book, look at the list of variable options, and simply swap them in. For example, floor plan type, building type, lighting, and materials. Once we replace those placeholders, the prompt becomes complete. Hit Generate, mine reads, render a simple top-down plan for a residential apartment floor plan. Show full furniture, carpets, and fixtures. Apply the photorealistic style. Use soft ambient daylight with gentle shadows to bring the spaces to life. And the result is absolutely marvelous. No need to spend hours in Photoshop anymore. With AI, the rendering happens instantly, and the variables give us endless flexibility. Now, of course, you can just copy the example prompt from the book and play with different variables. That alone gives you hundreds of possible results across different AI platforms. But what if you want more than one option at the same time? That's where Google AI Studio comes in. It lets you build simple AI apps, and we've already made a few of our own. You can check those out in earlier tutorials. For this video, we built another app that can render up to 4 variations at once. Here's how it works. I upload the floor plan, paste in my prompt, select the 3 images option, and hit Generate. In seconds, I get 3 different AI-rendered plans side by side. And that's powerful, because AI isn't perfect. Sometimes it misses details. Having multiple options means I can pick the one that's most accurate, or even combine ideas from each. For our second prompt, we're transforming a building facade into a clean 2D CAD drawing. The process is the same. Copy the prompt structure, upload the image, and paste it in. This time, I'm using ChatGPT. Now, the key step is swapping the variables, things like building type, drawing style, line weight. From the book, I replace those placeholders with options that fit this project and hit Generate. My final prompt reads, convert this exterior building perspective into a flat 2D CAD drawing. Remove all perspective distortion and represent the facade as a straight orthographic elevation drawing. Use crisp, clean black, thin technical blue, and bold uniform gray outlines with correct proportions of windows, doors, walls, and roofline. Minimal hatching for material differentiation, no people or context. The result should look like professional CAD architectural geometry. And the output? Exactly as expected. Simple, elegant, precise. To compare, I ran the same prompt in Meta AI. Each platform interprets geometry a little differently, but the results are impressive there too. You can experiment across platforms yourself and see which style works best for your projects. Next, we're trying out a prompt for structural decomposition of a high-rise tower. The idea is to break the building down into its core components and visualize it in a clean, diagrammatic way. My final prompt reads, convert the high-rise tower building into a structural decomposition diagram. Set the visual language using minimalist MVRDV style. Use high-contrast technical lines on a gray background scheme to convey the design concept. Even though I started with a low-resolution image, the output is absolutely incredible. The AI stripped away the clutter, emphasized the geometry, and delivered a crisp professional diagram that looks straight out of an architectural presentation. Next, we're testing the 2D elevation generator. This time, I'm using the AI Studio app. The workflow is simple. Upload a 3D house elevation, paste the prompt structure, and then swap in the visual style variables. My final prompt reads, convert image into 2D architectural elevation. Show the full facade with clean lines, hatching, and annotations. Overall style set as hand-drawn architectural drawing and pure line work. I tried 2 different images. One of them came out exactly right, and it looked pretty nice, almost like a colored sketch straight from a drafting table. That's the beauty of variables. You can keep experimenting with different styles until you land on the one that fits your project best. Next, we move into 3D modeling and digital design. The idea here is to take any image and convert it into a 3D model style output. The workflow is simple. Copy the prompt structure, upload your image, and then swap in variables like lighting style or background setting. My final prompt reads, convert this actual image of a building into a 3D physical model style representation. Preserve the proportions, geometry, and spatial layout exactly as in the render. Represent the design as a light gray textured study model with clean, sharp edges and smooth surfaces. Place it against a minimalistic wooden surface so it looks like a professional architectural model photograph. And the result? Absolutely beautiful. The AI captured the geometry perfectly and gave me a clean, elegant study model, something that looks like it belongs in a real architectural studio. Turning 2D sections into 3D is surprisingly simple now, as long as you use the right prompt structure, or as we've defined in our book. The key is defining enough details so the AI understands exactly what you want. My final prompt reads, convert this 2D architectural section drawing into a 3D axonometric cutaway model. Preserve the geometry, wall thicknesses, proportions, and spatial layout exactly as in the section. Extrude the 2D line work into accurate 3D volumes, showing floors, walls, windows, and openings. Represent materials stylistically with simplified textures, concrete structure, glazing, wood flooring, but keep the cut plane crisp with subtle gray cut surfaces. Present the view on a plain white background, no perspective distortion, with the cutaway exposing both sectional depth and interior spaces. Place the model against a white background with soft shadows. Do not add extra furniture or decor unless specified. And the result? Spot on. The AI delivered a clean, professional cutaway model in minutes. Now imagine how long it would take to build this manually in 3D software. Definitely hours saved. Next, we move into institutional architecture. For this category, you can copy the example prompt directly from the AI book. The input image can be anything: a site photo, a massing study, or even a concept diagram. My final prompt reads, create an axonometric view of a community center with flexible halls and universal design principles, demonstrating ramps and elevators. For this test, I'm using ChatGPT to generate the results. The output is solid, but when we compare across platforms, Gemini consistently delivers sharper geometry and more accurate architectural detail. So while you can experiment with different AI agents, Gemini is definitely the one I'd recommend using more often for institutional projects.
Adaptive reuse and renovation. This is one of the most interesting prompts because it lets us visualize a building in the middle of its transformation, capturing both the construction process and the future vision. My final prompt reads, convert this image into an architectural illustration of an abandoned industrial building undergoing adaptive reuse, depicting scaffolding and temporary supports, and a vibrant, bustling vision for the transformed space. The result is incredibly detailed and engaging. You can see the scaffolding, the temporary supports, and at the same time, the lively atmosphere of what the building is becoming. It's a perfect example of how AI can help us imagine the before and after of renovation in a single frame.
Next, we move to the 3D plan generator. This prompt can take any plan or 2D visual and instantly convert it into a 3D rendered image. What makes it powerful is the flexibility. You can change variables like building type, line style, architectural features, and even landscape details. For this example, I'm using Gemini. My final prompt reads, convert the 2D architectural floor plan into a low-angle interior perspective of a residential home interior. Show the full room layout and furniture with a soft, earthy color palette. Include exterior walls and windows and modern minimalist decor with indoor plants. The overall style should be photorealistic and modern, defined by bright and airy daylighting. And the result is amazing, a conceptual stage render generated directly from a CAD drawing. What used to take hours of manual modeling can now be achieved in minutes, giving us quick, realistic visuals to guide design decisions. Next, we move to the 2D elevation sketch to 3D generator. This is a comprehensive prompt because it uses almost every type of variable, materials, lighting, and even camera height to transform a simple sketch into a high-resolution render. My final prompt to Gemini reads, convert this hand-drawn architectural sketch into an ultra-realistic photorealistic render. Preserve the composition, proportions, and spatial layout exactly as shown in the sketch. Apply realistic materials based on the sketch cues. Render the scene with dramatic evening lighting and spotlights with minimal soft shadows. Use a 50mm standard lens at eye level, 1.6 meters, for a natural perspective. Show crisp textures, lifelike reflections, and subtle details, and add walking people and cars in the scene. And the result? Absolutely insane. In just a few seconds, the AI produced a stunning professional quality render, something that would normally take hours of manual work. It's a perfect example of how detailed variables can elevate a sketch into a lifelike visualization. Next, we move to the architectural section generator. This prompt is incredibly powerful because it can generate 3D sections of any project in different styles, fully integrated with materials and elements defined through variables. For this example, I'm using the previous render as the input image. My final prompt reads, convert commercial mixed-use building into an isometric cutaway section taken at the center of the building. Show internal spaces, floor levels, and structural elements. No furniture, focusing on space, connection details, and cladding systems. The overall style should be technical detail with hatching and callouts, defined by realistic materials and textures, soft volumetric light, and subtle depth, and emphasizing ultra-realistic render. The result is a beautifully detailed 3D cut section from the front of the building. You can clearly see the internal organization, the structural clarity, and the material definition, all generated in just seconds. Next, we move into event and temporary architecture, perfect for stages, concerts, and large gatherings. This prompt is designed with variables for dynamic lighting design and modular stage components, so you can experiment with endless configurations. For this example, I used a real-life image as input. My final prompt reads, create a high-energy visual of an event stage for an electronic dance music event, emphasizing moving headlights and adaptable truss systems with concert-goers holding phones. The result is spectacular. Vibrant lighting, modular trusses, and the energy of the crowd, all captured in one frame. And the best part is, by swapping variables like lighting type, stage modules, or audience details, you can generate completely different atmospheres for any event concept. Ever worked on a physical model and wondered how it would actually look if it were built? This prompt does exactly that. It converts architectural models into realistic buildings, complete with natural climate and surroundings. You can control all of it through variables, materials, landscapes, lighting, and more. For this example, my input image is a small architectural model. My final prompt reads, convert this into a high-resolution render of a suburban family house in a mid-century modern style, situated in a lakeside setting, with white stucco and a landscaped garden at golden hour. The result is stunning. Warm light, natural textures, and a lifelike setting that feels ready for reality. Honestly, it's the kind of render I'd love to share on Instagram. Next, we explore architectural visualization for event architecture, generated directly from a concept brief or even a site map in seconds. For this example, I'm using a simple concept massing image for a film festival. My final prompt reads, examine the site map and create a cinematic night scene of an open-air cinema for an international film showcase, featuring a permanent outdoor screen, lounge chairs, and glowing pathways at early evening. The result is spectacular, a vibrant, atmospheric visualization that feels ready for presentation. And the beauty of this workflow is that you can keep experimenting with variables, adjust the lighting design, change the atmosphere, swap fixtures, or even reimagine the seating layout. Each variation gives you a fresh perspective on how the event space could come to life. Next, we move into quick but detailed rendering of different project types, styles, moods, and references. The workflow is simple. Copy the prompt structure and swap the variables to fit your project. For my tower rendering, the final prompt reads, convert the shaded render into a realistic ambient evening photograph of a futuristic skyscraper exterior, inspired by brutalistic architecture cues, dramatic and moody, glossy reflections in smooth surfaces, hyper-realistic cinematic. The first result was good, but a little too dark, so I adjusted the variables and tried again, and the second render came out beautifully balanced. That's the power of iteration. One prompt can generate hundreds of different results across projects just by swapping styles, moods, or references. Next, we explore the camera adjustment prompt for architectural visualization. This is one of the most handy tools when you need a fresh perspective on a real-life image or any rendered project. For this example, I revisited a project we worked on earlier. My final prompt in Gemini reads, change the camera angle of the commercial building to a high-angle aerial drone shot. It's short, simple, but highly effective, instantly transforming the view into a dramatic aerial render of the project. And the best homies, you can keep experimenting with different camera angles, lens types, or heights to generate multiple perspectives without remodeling anything. For close-up shots, the prompt is just as simple. My final prompt reads, adjust the perspective of the exterior facade to a dramatic close-up, emphasizing intricate facade details. I used this on a real-life image and instantly got a striking view that highlights the textures and fine details of the design. It's a quick way to zoom in on craftsmanship and materiality without having to re-render the entire project. Another example of camera adjustment prompts or camera tweaks is when you want a completely different viewpoint of a structure. For this test, I used a residential render as input. My final prompt reads, change the camera angle of the photorealistic render to a bird's-eye top-down plan. It's simple, but it does the job perfectly, instantly giving me an inch-perfect aerial view of the project. This kind of prompt is incredibly useful for presentations, master plans, or just exploring how a design sits in its context. Next, we move into facade and materiality. This prompt is designed for facade treatments, starting from a massing model or even a simple concept sketch. By adjusting variables for materials and lighting, you can instantly create aesthetic renderings of architectural projects. For this example, my final prompt reads, convert this sketch into a photorealistic facade rendering of a residential building, emphasizing natural stone and zinc with a parametrically designed skin, rendered at golden hour with diffused natural light. The result is a sleek, professional render, warm, detailed, and visually striking. It's a perfect way to explore different material palettes and lighting moods without having to build the entire model from scratch. Can we take a quality render directly from just a massing model using AI? Absolutely. This prompt makes it possible. It's simple but very effective. Just copy the structure from the book and swap in your variables. For my high-rise building design, the final prompt reads, generate a dramatic night realistic photograph of a commercial office complex derived from a white model render, with an emphasis on soft ambient illumination and reflective glass material finishes. The result is magnificent. Rich colors, stunning visuals, and a dramatic atmosphere that feels like a professional night render. What's powerful here is how quickly AI can elevate a plain massing into a polished visualization, saving hours of manual work. Can we turn an under-construction project image into a finished product, complete with style, landscape, and even weather effects? With the right prompt, yes! This one is as detailed and intelligent as it gets. My final prompt reads, convert this into a highly realistic visualization of a modern residential villa, keeping the same proportions and structure. Finish with light-colored materials, natural stone cladding, classical columns, and ornate trims. Add a landscaped garden with flowers and a small pool. Render at golden hour with warm interior lights, garden lighting, and rain reflections for atmosphere. The result is breathtaking. a highly detailed render that transforms a raw construction image into absolute perfection. It's a showcase of how AI can not only finish the project visually, but also elevate it with atmosphere, mood, and storytelling. This prompt is perfect for hospitality and retail design, generating architectural visualizations directly from a simple massing or even a mood board. Yes, you can actually use a mood board to create full structures. For this example, I used a mood board to generate a rendering for a luxury fashion brand. My final prompt reads, "Create an exterior rendering of a fashion brand store with a glowing lightbox facade and neon lettering, situated in a bustling shopping street at deep night." The result is simply lovely, sleek, aesthetic, and full of atmosphere. It's a great way to translate brand identity into architectural visualization, and by swapping variables like lighting type, facade material, or street context, you can instantly explore hundreds of different design moods. Next, we move into interior rendering, a proper prompt to achieve dramatic interior visualizations. In the book, we've provided a set of variables you can directly copy into the prompt structure, making it easy to experiment with different moods and styles. For this example, I used a plan as the base image. My final prompt reads, "Develop a minimalist architectural visualization of a lobby interior, highlighting diffused natural light and a humid summer evening to evoke a specific coziness." The result is niche and beautiful, a warm, atmospheric condition that feels inviting, almost like a space you'd want to stay in. Next, we look into architectural visualization of commercial and office buildings. Here, the variables include location, style, mood, and visual detailing, giving us full control over how the project is presented. For this example, I used a massing image as the input. My final prompt reads, "To build this building, a professional architectural project in a futuristic city, start by defining the main subject as an office tower." The desired output is a futuristic digital architecture rendering, showcasing the building facade with fine material details. The result is as good as it gets, a sleek, futuristic render produced in seconds. Honestly, it's the kind of output that would take me a full day to achieve manually, but now AI makes it effortless. Now, we look at the architectural visualization prompt that places your building into a new environment effortlessly, basically a seamless transition. With different variables for background, environment, lighting, and rendering style, this works across all kinds of projects. For this example, I used a parametric tower facade as the input. My final prompt reads, "Place the existing curved high-rise building design seamlessly into a serene waterfront promenade in Dubai, set with a vibrant sunset over the ocean." The integration should be inspired by brutalist concrete aesthetics, featuring dramatic and moody evening glow, neon signs, flying vehicles, and sleek urban infrastructure, achieving cinematic realism. The result is absolutely magnificent, a futuristic yet believable scene that feels alive. And the beauty of this workflow is that you can keep swapping variables to instantly explore different environments, moods, and styles. Now, we move into architectural visualization for temporary pavilions, lightweight structures designed for festivals, exhibitions, and public parks. These prompts are defined by variables that let you adjust materials, lighting, and atmosphere, whether your input is a massing, a concept diagram, or even a real site photo. For this example, I used a parametric massing as input. My final prompt reads, "Generate a vibrant night render of an exhibition pavilion for a film festival, showcasing its modular aluminum frame and digital displays, set in an urban green space at Blue Hour." The result is absolutely mesmerizing, glowing frames, dynamic displays, and a cinematic atmosphere that feels alive. And with different variables, you can instantly reimagine the pavilion in countless moods and contexts. Now, a very simple prompt for rendering different environments. This one only works with variables like render type, time of day, and project type. But even with just those, you can generate many different outputs. For this test, I used AI Studio with a shaded conceptual render. My final prompt reads, "Convert the shaded conceptual render into a realistic, dramatic twilight photograph of a futuristic stadium exterior." The output is minimalistic but effective, a clean, atmospheric visualization that shows how even the simplest variables can create striking results. Next, we move into 2D to 3D elevation rendering in extreme detail. This workflow lets you transform a simple elevation into a hyper-realistic visualization by adjusting variables like facade materials, building type, windows, frames, balconies, lighting, and even room details. For this example, I copied the basic prompt structure and used Gemini with a 2D elevation image. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a hyper-realistic architectural visualization of a classical residential building, keeping all proportions and ornamentation exactly the same. Use warm terracotta stucco with fine classical detailing, decorative cornices, sash windows with natural wood frames, and stone balustrades. Add a paved plaza, cobblestone path, historic brick street, deciduous trees, flowering bushes, and elegant greenery. Include both natural daylight and minimal hidden lighting, facade sconces, balcony lamps, and soft interior glow to emphasize depth and realism." The result is highly detailed, with every element incorporated seamlessly. It feels lived in, elegant, and atmospheric, a perfect example of how AI can elevate a flat elevation drawing into a fully immersive 3D render. Now we move into architectural visualization for residential buildings. This prompt focuses on variables like building type, dynamic balconies, green elements, urban context, and time of day, giving us flexibility to shape the atmosphere. For this example, I used a massing image as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert and visualize this into an apartment block facade with recessed balconies and climbing vines, designed for waterfront development, rendered at ambient evening." The result is elegant, a refined visualization that blends architectural form with greenery and urban context, all wrapped in the soft glow of evening light. In this example, we explore facade transformation, changing materials or facade types of a building using a simple prompt. You can specify new architectural elements, materials, and lighting while retaining the original structure and geometry. For this test, I used a rendered image from before as input. My final prompt reads, "Change the white painted stucco on the building facade to dark oxidized copper panels." The transformation must retain the structural form and geometry, ensuring the new material is fully integrated under the existing bright midday sun with sharp shadows of the scene. The result is seamless, a striking copper facade that shows exactly how a renovation or redesign could look, without altering the building's proportions. This prompt explores facade transformation with cultural influences, working with patterns, motifs, and materials to redefine a building's identity. For this example, I used the Villa Savoy as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a high-resolution render of a residential building facade showcasing geometric Islamic patterns derived from Middle Eastern design using woven composites." The result was fascinating, intricate motifs integrated seamlessly into the modernist form. Then I swapped the material to steel composite, and the transformation looked even better, sharper, more refined, and truly unique. This shows how AI lets us experiment with cultural patterns and material palettes instantly, creating designs that feel both contextual and innovative. This prompt helps you create a mood board for facade materials. By defining the building type, facade elements, materials, and composition directly in the variables, you can generate highly customized outputs. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Create an architectural exterior mood board for a sustainable eco-residence." Showcase glazing and sun shading, including dark basalt stone, vertical Shosugiban timber cladding, warm bronze metal trim, and textured white concrete. Layout, organic collage style. The result was surprisingly interesting, a rich, layered mood board that felt expressive and dynamic. Then I changed the composition to a clean grid layout, and the output instantly became minimalistic and refined. This shows how a single variable can completely shift the design language of your mood board.
This prompt focuses on contemporary architectural facades and expressions, perfect if you're looking to give your design a vernacular touch. By integrating cultural patterns with sustainable materials, you can achieve a facade that feels both rooted in heritage and forward-looking. For this example, I inserted a 3D elevation and used the prompt, "Make this into a photorealistic detail elevation of a residential building that sensitively integrates cultural patterns with sustainable material choices, focusing on fenestration patterns." The result is striking, a hybrid look that blends heritage motifs with modern sustainability, giving the facade a unique identity and atmosphere.
Ever wondered how a modern building would look if it got a historical makeover? This prompt lets you do exactly that. You can take any image of a modern building and adjust variables for historical motifs, contemporary forms, and even the rendering style of the final image. For this example, my input was a commercial building. The final prompt reads, "Redesign the elevation of this commercial building, incorporating a blend of ornate window treatments and exposed concrete, presented with a watercolor sketch style." The output is really nice. I especially love the watercolor style render. It gives the building a unique hybrid identity, blending modern structure with historical detailing in a way that feels artistic and fresh. Here's another powerful prompt, one that generates an architectural render with a hybrid facade, blending ornate details with modern additions. You can apply this to any building image and explore how classical and contemporary elements interact. For this example, my input was an institutional building. The final prompt reads, "Convert this into an artistic conceptual rendering facade design for a cultural institution, emphasizing the contrast and harmony between intricate cornices and glass extensions." The result is fascinating, a hybrid facade that feels both timeless and innovative. I love how the ornate cornices balance against the sleek glass, creating a design language that's elegant yet forward-looking. This architectural AI prompt for facade transformation focuses on mood, visualization style, natural context, material detailing, and unique design elements that you can specify directly in the prompt. For this example, I used Villa Savoy as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a realistic image of a modern villa situated in a dense forest, emphasizing its intricate brise-soleil and rendered with recycled and sustainable material." The result is absolutely fantastic, soothing, natural, and deeply atmospheric. It feels like a villa seamlessly integrated into its environment, with sustainable materials enhancing its elegance. Honestly, it's the kind of house I'd love to live in. Next, we move into interior visualization prompts, specifically living room transformation. This method lets you take an empty space and combine it with either a furniture image or a mood board to create a fully realized interior. In this case, my inputs were two pictures, one of the furniture and one of the room. The prompt uses short variables, which means you can remove the ones you don't need and keep only the ones you want. My final prompt reads, "Examine the interior space and convert the mood board into a realistic bright morning photograph of a classic, elegant drawing room as provided in the picture." The result blends the two images beautifully, furniture and space integrated seamlessly into a refined, elegant drawing room. And because the variables are modular, I can experiment with multiple styles quickly, just by swapping or trimming them. This modular prompt is designed for habitable room visualization. You can select variables like room type, lighting, texture, interior style, and color scheme, and simply copy the prompt while keeping only the variables you need along with any image input. For this example, I used a mood board image of a bedroom. My final prompt reads, transform the mood board for a bedroom into a realistic ambient evening photograph, emphasizing warm hues and a wood and metal modern minimalist style. The result is marvelous, exactly as described. A soothing evening atmosphere with warm tones and minimalist detailing, perfectly blending the mood board into a realistic interior. This is a powerful prompt for interior stylizing and decor. The input can be an existing image or a mood board, and the variables for styling and material choices are key to shaping the final look. For this example, my input was a real-life image. After adjusting the variables, my final prompt reads, transform an empty room render of a bedroom into a traditional space, emphasizing exposed brick and leather with dramatic accent lighting. The result is absolutely fascinating. Cozy, atmospheric, and so realistic that it doesn't look AI-generated at all. It feels like stepping into a lived-in, elegant space brought to life instantly. This modular prompt is perfect for kitchen design visualization. You can insert any concept drawing, sketch, or isometric view, and then choose variables for lighting, texture, interior style, and color scheme. The beauty of this workflow is that you simply copy the prompt and keep only the variables you need along with your input image. For this example, my input was an isometric drawing. After removing the variables I didn't need, my final prompt reads, convert the isometric drawing into a realistic early breakfast photograph of a rustic farmhouse kitchen. The result is simple and elegant, a warm, lived-in kitchen scene that feels authentic and inviting. It shows how modular prompts let you refine your design quickly while keeping the creative process effortless. This modular prompt is for interior rendering of a home office space or similar projects. The workflow is simple. Copy the prompt, insert any base image like a sketch or a plan, and keep only the variables you need. For this example, my final prompt reads, convert the ergonomic study into a realistic late-night work session photograph of a minimalist home office. The result is wonderfully aesthetic, moody, minimal, and atmospheric. Dark as my soul, but I'm in love with it. It shows how modular prompts can capture not just design, but also mood and lifestyle in a single render. How do you quickly render a bathroom view from a mood board? It's simple. Just use this modular prompt along with either the mood board or a basic plan. Keep only the variables you need and let the AI do the rest. For this example, my final prompt reads, convert the fixture selection sheet into a realistic, refreshing morning photograph of a contemporary master bathroom. The result is superb, bright, clean, and natural. A refreshing morning atmosphere that makes the bathroom feel both contemporary and inviting. This is a powerful and detailed prompt for projects that are under construction or at a base stage. It allows you to experiment with variables like interior light effects, material palettes, furniture styles, and decorative elements, giving you full control over how the unfinished space could look once complete. For this example, my final prompt reads, create an interior rendering of a Scandinavian cozy residential space with deep golden chandelier glow and a pastel palette, depicting a living room with modular sofa and potted plants. The overall dramatic and intimate atmosphere is achieved through natural window light and soft shadows. The result is beautiful, warm, inviting, and perfectly balanced between coziness and drama. It shows how even an undone project can be instantly visualized with mood, detail, and character.
Here's another prompt for interior living room detailing and decor. You can insert any concept image or a live image, then simply copy the prompt structure and adjust the variables you need. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Style a living room with an Art Deco aesthetic, using earthy greens and incorporating a sectional sofa and abstract sculpture, rendered as a studio-quality render at golden hour." The output is beautiful, authentic, and richly atmospheric. And here's the best part. When I noticed a table blocking the door, I simply instructed the system to remove it, and it was gone in seconds. That's the power of modular prompts. Not only can you style and detail interiors, but you can also refine them instantly with precise edits.
Ever wanted to change the character and style of an image you've already rendered? This prompt is perfect for that. It lets you introduce new styles into any space, adjusting lighting, shadows, and color schemes without having to remodel the entire scene. For this example, I reused a bedroom render we created earlier. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a bright morning render of a bedroom in a rustic style, focusing on the interplay of task lighting, accent lighting, ambient lighting, and dramatic moody tones with rich reds and burgundies." The result worked beautifully. Instead of rebuilding the model, we can instantly restyle the image with AI, a huge advantage when clients ask for quick changes or want to see multiple variations.
This next prompt helps you generate mood board-inspired renders of any space type. By curating collections and material palette variables, you can translate a mood board directly into a realistic visualization. For this example, I used a mood board as input. My final prompt reads, "Examine this mood board and convert this into an image of a living room in an eclectic style, showcasing antique finds, modern ceramics, travel souvenirs, and a concrete, raw silk, exposed metal material palette." The result is supreme. Every element from the mood board has been utilized, creating a living room that feels layered, authentic, and full of character. Ever wanted to change the perspective or viewpoint of an interior render you already have? This prompt makes it effortless. You can generate new renders from different angles without rebuilding the model. For this example, I reused a render I had taken earlier. My final prompt reads, "Re-render this interior view from a low-angle human eye perspective, 1.6 meters, highlighting the soft morning light and swirling clouds." The result was exactly what I wanted, a clean, atmospheric render from a fresh viewpoint. And when I noticed a curtain wall behind the sofa that I didn't want, I simply instructed the system to remove it. Done in seconds, leaving me with a perfectly refined image. Visualizing a public space has always been tricky, but with AI, it becomes so much easier. This prompt structure lets you define variables for different transportation hubs, along with materials, seating arrangements, and lighting choices. For this example, I used a metro system image as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a subway station interior with interactive digital screens and ergonomic seating, emphasizing light wells and warm-toned stone." The render was exactly what I needed, clean, functional, and atmospheric. AI makes it simple to explore complex public spaces, turning abstract ideas into vivid, realistic visualizations in seconds. Can we reimagine temporary public infrastructure and make it look aesthetic using AI prompts? Absolutely! This workflow gives us variables for public market halls and craftsmanship, where we can define materials, lighting, and even bustling atmospheres. For this example, I used an old image of a marketplace. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a vibrant and lively rendering of a community bazaar interior, celebrating regional timber and hand-carved details, with translucent roof panels and a vibrant crowd." The visualization generated is insane, full of life, texture, and atmosphere. It looks as good as it could get, turning a simple marketplace into a cultural showcase of design and community energy.
One of my personal favorite prompts for generating intriguing architectural and interior concepts is this one. It's modular, so you simply keep the variables you need and remove the ones you don't. For this example, I used a mood board for a fashion boutique design. My final prompt reads, convert the brand identity board into a realistic peak business hours photograph of a high-end fashion boutique. The result is exciting, a busy, vibrant render that still feels serene and elegant. It perfectly captures the boutique's identity, blending atmosphere, brand, and design into one cohesive visualization.
This prompt is specifically designed for hospitality space visualization. The variables range from hotel lobbies to material specifications, seating arrangements, and lighting choices. You can use any real-life image or concept image as input. Simply copy the prompt structure and adjust the variables to suit your project. For this example, I used a real-life image. My final prompt reads, convert this into a high-resolution render of a lounge zone, showcasing minimalist luxury and polished marble with lounge chairs and glowing architectural features. The result was exactly what I wanted, a clean, minimalistic design with elegant furniture and a refined atmosphere. It demonstrates how AI can instantly elevate hospitality spaces into polished, high-end visualizations.
This next prompt is for interior visualization of restaurants, cafes, or seating spaces, and it's designed for high detail. The variables let you define the dining experience concept, lighting or atmospheric conditions, themed decor, and overall environment. For this example, my input was a simple plan of a cafe. After adjusting the variables, my final prompt reads, study the plan and visualize a themed cafe with a futuristic cyberpunk aesthetic, combining color-changing LEDs and vintage memorabilia to create a stimulating multi-sensory experience. The result was fantastic. It understood the arrangement directly from the plan and transformed it into a vibrant, immersive render. I was amazed at how quickly it captured the theme and atmosphere, making the cafe feel alive and futuristic.
Generating interior renders and concepts for commercial dining and food courts has never been easier. With this modular prompt, you can specify seating arrangements, sustainable design elements, and even tailor the space to different audience types. Simply copy the prompt structure and adjust the variables to fit your project. For this example, I used a mood board as input. My final prompt reads, study the mood board and develop a conceptual render of a shopping mall food court with low lounge seating and abundant indoor plants, catering to students, professionals, and families. The result was impressive. It utilized most of the details and elements from the mood board, creating a vibrant, sustainable, and welcoming food court concept. A great idea brought to life instantly.
If you're working on an institutional project, this prompt is ideal. It allows you to define different room types or simply use the variables provided, ranging from learning environments to seating styles, technology, and lighting settings. You can start with a plan or any image as the base, copy the prompt structure, and then edit or swap variables to suit your concept. For this example, I used a plan as input. My final prompt reads, study the plan and create a high-resolution render of a university seminar room designed for individual study nooks, featuring movable desks and chairs and projection systems with skylights. The result was a high-class render, professional, functional, and perfectly aligned with my institutional design concept. It shows how AI can quickly elevate academic spaces into polished visualizations.
This prompt is designed for interior visualization of fashion brands. It takes just seconds to generate, and you can create hundreds of concepts by adjusting the variables, from materials to innovative display elements. For this example, I used a mood board as input. My final prompt reads,
Using the mood board, visualize an experiential showroom designed for a high-end luxury brand, featuring hanging fabric installations and custom finishes with logo, set within an abandoned storefront. The result is gorgeous, a striking concept that feels both luxurious and unconventional. It shows how quickly AI can transform brand identity into immersive showroom experiences.
Next, we're testing a prompt for temporary structures, transforming real-life images into something unique like exhibition spaces or art galleries. The workflow is simple. Copy the prompt structure and swap the variables to suit your concept. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Develop this into a conceptual render of a gallery pop-up for a painting collection, focusing on hanging screens and diffused ambient lights to highlight artworks." The result is striking, a temporary space reimagined as a refined gallery, with atmosphere, lighting, and display elements working together to elevate the artworks. By experimenting with different variables, you can instantly generate multiple versions of exhibition spaces tailored to different collections or moods.
Architectural lighting and ambience can completely transform interior spaces, and this prompt is designed to do exactly that. It's dynamic, giving you control over variables like dramatic artificial light, shadows, and overall mood. For this example, I reused an image we previously generated. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a photorealistic interior shot of a cafe interior, focusing on concealed LED strips, creating glow and soft elongated light at late night to evoke a vibrant and energetic mood." The result captures it beautifully. The concealed lighting adds depth, the ambiance feels alive, and the entire cafe space radiates energy. It shows how light alone can redefine atmosphere and elevate design.
This prompt is tailored for architectural lighting design of high-rise structures. It gives you variables for dynamic facade lighting, materials, and urban context, which you can specify or swap directly into the prompt structure. For this example, I reused a picture we rendered earlier. My final prompt reads, "Visualize a high-rise tower at blue hour, with programmed light shows interacting with reflective glass and bustling street life." The result is magnificent, a vibrant, photorealistic render that captures the energy of the city. What would normally take me hours to create manually, AI delivers in seconds, making architectural lighting design faster, more flexible, and more inspiring than ever.
This prompt is designed for lighting design in residential spaces. It's perfect for introducing natural light conditions, setting a mood, and controlling shadows at different times of the day. For this example, I reused an image we rendered earlier and adjusted the variables. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into a high-resolution render of a bedroom with bright, direct sunlight dictating the airy and expansive mood, with sharp and graphic shadows at bright morning." The result leaned more toward diffused light, which makes sense since I hadn't specified that the curtain should be open. It's a reminder of how precise we can be with prompts. Even small details like curtain position or window treatment can dramatically change the lighting outcome. This prompt is designed for lighting design in commercial buildings. It gives you variables for exterior types, materials, how light interacts with them, and even the time of day. You can apply it to any facade image, whether real or conceptual, and instantly explore new lighting scenarios. For this example, I used a parametric tower design as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert this into an artistic conceptual visualization of a perforated screen facade, where color-changing surfaces shape forms and reveal textures at deep night." The result is stunning, a magnificent nighttime scene where the facade feels alive, dynamic, and expressive. What would normally take hours to model and render manually, AI delivers in seconds, making lighting design both faster and more imaginative. This prompt is designed for lighting design in industrial or historical buildings. It allows us to specify variables such as building type, new usage, retained historical elements, and modern additions. By adjusting these, we can transform heritage structures into contemporary spaces while preserving their character. For this example, I used an old warehouse as input. My final prompt reads, transform this old warehouse into loft apartments, showcasing the integration of exposed brick walls with sleek minimalist interiors, programmable LED arrays, rendered at ambient evening. The result is beautiful, a perfect balance of raw historical texture and modern lighting design. It demonstrates how AI can seamlessly merge industrial heritage with sleek contemporary living environments.
This prompt focuses on transforming interior spaces based on lighting style. It's flexible, letting you specify variables like lighting style, interior style, furniture, and other design elements. For this example, I applied the basic prompt to an empty bedroom image. My final prompt reads, generate a bright morning realistic photograph of a Scandinavian cozy bedroom based on the provided image of the room. Include a 4-poster bed and abstract art. The result looks fantastic, airy, serene, and full of character. It shows how a simple room can be elevated into a stylish Scandinavian interior just by defining lighting and design variables.
This prompt is designed for architectural visualization of public infrastructure, like bridges. It lets you define variables such as input image type, whether a real-life photo or a sketch, along with bridge type, structural design, lighting style, and urban context. For this example, I used a real-life image as input. My final prompt reads, generate a cinematic night shot of a truss bridge with kinetic elements and LED strips along handrails, connecting industrial and cultural areas at deep night. The result is stunning, a dramatic, high-impact render that captures the bridge as both infrastructure and urban art. AI makes it effortless to explore lighting, context, and design variations that would otherwise take hours to model manually. Sometimes you don't need to spend hours building a physical architectural model. This prompt lets you generate one instantly, complete with lighting and presentation settings. Just copy the structure, adjust the variables, and you're ready to go. For this example, my final prompt reads, convert a high-rise tower into a physical architectural model. Define the clean study model with sharp edges. Apply a warm wooden tones palette. Set the model in realistic soft neutral studio lighting on a seamless background. The presentation should use a defined close-up ground-level photograph, achieving ultra-realistic photography of a physical model on a table in an architecture studio. The result is a beautifully crafted study model, sharp, clean, and convincingly real. It shows how AI can replicate the look and feel of professional architectural model photography in seconds.
This prompt is perfect for converting large buildings or structures into architectural models. You can define variables like model type, color scheme, lighting settings, and level of detail, then simply drop them into the prompt structure. For this example, I used a museum picture as input. My final prompt reads, from image, generate an architectural model render of a large museum complex using a complex presentation model with layers, with abstract color-coded zones and a moody twilight with internal glow. The eye-level view, human scale, should achieve a detailed scale model kept on a table. The result is beautiful, a layered, color-coded presentation model that feels both artistic and precise. It captures the museum's complexity while presenting it as a tangible, studio-ready scale model.
This prompt explores architectural physical models and outdoor settings. It's perfect for showcasing how a design can look as a tangible object, with variables like model style, color scheme, lighting, and presentation. For this example, I used Villa Savoy as input. My final prompt reads, apply a 3D printed model style to this residential villa to create a photorealistic render, using a high-contrast black and white palette placed in a sunny outdoor setting on a wooden table. The view should be dynamic, with a blurred background and high photorealistic rendering of a physical model. The result is magnificent. The details are sharp and intriguing, the surfaces feel tactile, and the outdoor setting adds a fresh, realistic dimension. It looks exactly like a studio-quality photograph of a physical model placed outside.
Turning commercial buildings into architectural models has never been simpler. This prompt lets you create grayscale, studio-quality architectural models with variables for model style, color palette, lighting, and presentation. For this example, I used a commercial retail center as input. My final prompt reads, convert this commercial retail center into a physical architectural model. Define the clean study model with sharp edges. Apply a subtle pastels palette. Set the model in a realistic dynamic studio with colored spotlights. The presentation should use a defined high-angle aerial shot, achieving ultra-realistic photography of a physical model. The result is a striking image, sharp, clean, and convincingly real, with the pastel tones and spotlighting giving it a refined studio presence. It feels exactly like a professional architectural model captured in a high-end photography setup.
Want to turn large urban master plans into architectural physical models? This prompt does exactly that. You can define variables for color scheme, lighting, detailing, and perspective, then simply copy the structure and adjust them to fit your project. For this example, I used an urban massing image as input. My final prompt reads, convert this into a conceptual architectural model image of an urban master plan using a topographic site model, a high-contrast black and white palette set in a stark spotlight against a dark background and presented with a high-angle aerial shot aiming for a simple massing model. The result is breathtaking, a monochrome, brilliant visualization that captures the essence of the master plan with clarity and drama. It feels like a studio-quality physical model presented with precision and impact.
This prompt is designed for sustainable architecture, helping us visualize how residential projects look when eco-friendly measures are implemented. The structure allows us to specify variables such as natural environment, sustainable features, and eco-friendly materials, and we can combine multiple variables for richer results. For this example, I used a small-scale residential model as input. My final prompt reads, design a residential home integrated into a mountainous terrain, emphasizing solar panels and utilizing recycled steel, presented as a photorealistic rendering at bright morning. The result is impressive, a home that feels seamlessly integrated into its natural setting, with sustainable materials and energy solutions highlighted beautifully. It shows how AI can instantly bring sustainable design concepts to life in a visually compelling way.
This prompt is designed for sustainable architecture, turning towers into vertical forests and farms. By copying the structure and adjusting variables, we can explore how ecological features reshape urban design. For this example, my final prompt reads, visualize this into a vertical farm promoting sustainability, based on a digital concept drawing, showcasing solar streetlights and urban forests, rendered in a photorealistic rendering. The result is marvelous, a tower that feels alive, blending architecture with nature. Solar streetlights, lush greenery, and urban forests create a vision of sustainability that's both futuristic and grounded in ecological responsibility.
This prompt is designed for sustainable facades and systems, allowing us to specify variables like natural environment, eco-friendly materials, and integrated sustainable technologies. By structuring the prompt with these variables, we can visualize how architecture adapts to ecological responsibility. For this example, I used a mood board of sustainable materials as input. My final prompt reads, utilizing the mood board, create a photorealistic architectural visualization of a research facility, incorporating blackwater treatment and native plant species set within an urban park. The result is absolutely stunning, a facility that feels alive, blending advanced systems with natural elements. It demonstrates how AI can instantly render sustainable design strategies into compelling, photorealistic imagery. This prompt is all about integrating sustainable technologies into architectural renders. The structure is simple. Copy the base prompt and add variables like eco-friendly materials, smart systems, or natural light strategies. For this example, I used a tower as input. My final prompt reads, examine and develop this into an illustrative cutaway sectional view of a sustainable high-rise, revealing its smart building controls and load-bearing rammed earth structural materials, with light shells for natural light penetration. The result is powerful, a sectional visualization that showcases sustainable technologies in action. You can see how smart controls, natural light strategies, and eco-materials combine to create a high-rise that's both innovative and environmentally responsible. This prompt is designed to produce architectural visualization images with sustainable technology shown in unique compositions or phases. You can use any picture of a structure, then adjust variables like facade systems, materials, or environmental responses to generate dynamic sequences. For this example, I used a commercial office building as input. My final prompt reads, examine and visualize this residential block with operable louvers and a growing green facade, changing its appearance based on the sun path, rendered as a series of side-by-side renderings. The result is elegant. 3 distinct phases of the building captured in one composition. You can see how the facade adapts to sunlight, how louvers shift, and how greenery evolves, all presented in a clean, comparative visualization. It's a powerful way to communicate sustainable design strategies in motion. This prompt is designed for urban planning and landscape architecture. It's the best way to convert a master plan or site plan into a fully rendered visualization of a project. The structure allows us to specify variables such as development type, key features, and landscape elements, making the output both flexible and powerful. For this example, I used a site map as input. My final prompt reads, generate this into a bird's-eye view of a smart city extension based on the site analysis diagram, showcasing its distinctive architectural landmarks and community gardens at warm dusk. The result is remarkable, a sweeping visualization that captures the city extension in detail, with landmarks glowing against the dusk light and community gardens adding vibrancy. It feels like a professional urban planning render, instantly communicating scale, atmosphere, and design intent. This prompt is designed for recreational spaces and landscape architecture. It works magnificently well because we can play with a wide range of variables, ecological functions, recreational amenities, and design features while using any type of input, from site plans to real-life images. For this example, I started with an empty landscape site on a master plan. My final prompt reads, create this into a photorealistic render visualization of an urban park in a suburban neighborhood, highlighting its stormwater management and community event spaces and observation decks at ambient evening. The result is amazing, a vibrant park that feels alive, with ecological systems and community amenities seamlessly integrated. It shows how AI can instantly transform a blank site into a fully realized recreational landscape.
This prompt is designed for public spaces and landscape design, and it can help you create projects entirely from scratch. The structure is flexible, allowing you to experiment with variables like theme parks, planning zones, pedestrian paths, and more. You can insert any type of image, from site plans to Google Maps, and transform it into a fully realized concept. For this example, I used a Google Map image as input. My final prompt reads, develop this into an artistic site plan for an urban canyon park, showcasing its active recreation zones and seasonal flowering plants, with separate paved paths clearly defined. The result is a fantastic concept site plan, artistic, clear, and full of detail. It demonstrates how AI can instantly elevate raw maps or diagrams into creative, professional-quality landscape visualizations.
Mixed-use development evolution can be visualized with just a single prompt. It's simple but highly effective. You can start with any massing image or master plan, specify the project type, and then add variables for open spaces and building forms. For this example, I used a massing plan as input. My final prompt reads, Generate this into an aerial view of a mixed-income residential block area at illuminated night, based on the zoning map, showcasing the interplay of varied and dynamic building heights and forms with an expansive waterfront promenade. The result is stunning. A vibrant nighttime render that captures the energy of mixed-use living, with dynamic building forms and a waterfront promenade tying the whole project together. It feels like a professional visualization of urban evolution, created instantly.
This is one of the simplest prompts, but it works incredibly well. It lets you turn any sketch into a proper visualization by integrating landscape elements that you can select as variables. Just copy the structure, adjust the variables, and you're ready to go. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Create this into an immersive, bright morning visualization of urban park design using the concept art as a base and incorporate lush vegetation and dynamic cloud formations." The result is gorgeous, a vibrant, immersive render that transforms a simple sketch into a living urban park scene. It shows how AI can instantly elevate concept art into photorealistic landscape design.
This prompt is designed for public spaces and infrastructure, and it works brilliantly to introduce new landscape elements into plazas or civic squares. By adjusting variables, you can add features like water elements, seating, or people engaged in activities, making the visualization dynamic and human-centered. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Create a high-altitude drone shot of a market square, featuring splash pads and built-in benches at ambient evening with children playing." The result is a smart render, vibrant, atmospheric, and full of life. It shows how AI can instantly reimagine public plazas as engaging community spaces, blending infrastructure with activity and ambiance.
This prompt is for redesigning spaces, and it's modular by design. It works especially well for pavements, walkways, and landscapes. All the variables are embedded into the prompt structure. You simply keep the ones you want and remove the rest. Options include pavements, craftsmanship, time of day, and innovative solutions. For this example, I used a real-time image as input. My final prompt reads, "Redesign the existing pedestrian from the attached reference images, incorporating innovative shading solutions and sustainable material pathways with a futuristic aesthetic style. Render this as a realistic ambient evening glow photograph, showcasing enhanced integrated smart lighting designs." The result is exactly what it should be, a futuristic yet sustainable redesign, with shading, pathways, and smart lighting all integrated seamlessly. It shows how modular prompts can adapt to any space and deliver a professional visualization.
This prompt is a simple modular structure for creating design proposals in different environments. You can start with any input, a site plan, schematic, or massing, then keep the variables you need and remove the rest. It's flexible, adaptable, and works across a wide range of contexts. For this example, I used a site plan as input. My final prompt reads, "Convert the flood protection schematic into a realistic pre-storm atmosphere / post-event recovery photograph of an ecological buffer zone." The result is powerful, a visualization that captures both the tension of the pre-storm atmosphere and the resilience of post-event recovery. It shows how ecological buffer zones can be communicated visually, making the design intent clear and impactful.
Here's another simple modular prompt for environment and landscape design. It works beautifully with sketches, and the structure is easy to use. Just copy the prompt, keep the variables you need, and remove the rest. For this example, my final prompt reads, "Convert the conceptual sketch into a realistic early morning photograph of a community garden." The result is a great visualization, fresh, immersive, and full of life. It shows how AI can instantly transform a simple sketch into a photorealistic garden scene, capturing atmosphere, vegetation, and community spirit in one frame.
This is a massive prompt for green infrastructure corridor design and urban planning. It's highly versatile, with variables ranging from rendering style to urban design interventions, functions, and ecological integration. You can use any input, a real image, a master plan, or massing, and simply adjust the variables to suit your project. For this example, my final prompt reads, illustrate this into an illustrative cutaway section through a mixed-use development with podium, demonstrating its retail and commercial spaces and blending with natural topography. The result is excellent, a sectional visualization that not only highlights retail and commercial activity, but also shows how the development merges seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. It's a powerful way to communicate how green infrastructure corridors can be embedded into mixed-use urban projects. This prompt is for mixed-use development in an urban context, highlighting transport infrastructure and green spaces. It looks simple, but it's highly effective. You can start with a basic massing input, then adjust the variables to specify project type, transit integration, and landscape features. For this example, my final prompt reads, create this into a zoomed-in, vibrant, daytime, realistic image of a mixed-income residential block based on the master plan blueprint, focusing on the integration of public transit hubs and rooftop gardens and urban parks. The result is marvelous, a vivid daytime render that brings together housing, transit, and green spaces in one cohesive vision. It shows how AI can instantly transform massing into a detailed urban proposal, with every element utilized exactly as described. This prompt is for large-scale development in urban design and planning. It works seamlessly with any master plan, site plan, or massing image. The structure allows you to set variables like zoning, land use, and vehicular circulation. Simply copy the prompt, replace placeholders with your chosen variables, and insert the input image. For this example, I used a massing image as input. My final prompt reads, create a photorealistic aerial render bird's-eye view of a large-scale development for a mixed-use development, showcasing its clearly defined zones and separate vehicle and pedestrian paths at bright and clear daytime. The result is majestic, a sweeping aerial visualization that captures the scale of the project, with zones clearly defined and circulation patterns elegantly separated. It demonstrates how AI can instantly elevate planning diagrams into professional quality renders that communicate both design intent and urban vibrancy.
This prompt is for adaptive reuse and renovation in the urban context. It's a powerful way to introduce interventions and sustainable upgrades to dilapidated structures, while also considering variables like public access and community integration. The structure is simple. Pick the variables you need, insert a building image or even a large development, and let the prompt reimagine it. For this example, I chose a picture of an old building. My final prompt reads, develop this into a conceptual render of an abandoned building being a renewable energy landmark, showcasing green roofs and facades and community engagement spaces. The result is visually striking, a transformation from decay into a vibrant landmark. It demonstrates how adaptive reuse can turn forgotten structures into sustainable, community-oriented icons, blending renewable energy with public space.
This prompt is for conceptual street design, and it works especially well with 2D street sections and transportation diagrams. It's modular, so you can simply copy the structure, keep the variables you need, and remove the rest to generate a clear visualization. For this example, my input was a road network. My final prompt reads, convert the transportation network diagram into a realistic rush hour photograph of a pedestrian priority street and autonomous vehicle route. The result is magnificent, a dynamic visualization of rush hour while highlighting pedestrian priority and autonomous vehicle integration. It shows how AI can instantly transform technical diagrams into immersive real-world street scenes. This prompt is designed for large district-scale visualizations. It's flexible enough to work with any input, a concept sketch, massing model, or master plan. The structure lets you set variables like district type and urban features, so you can tailor the visualization to your project. For this example, I used a mass model as input. My final prompt reads,
Convert the massing model into a realistic warm dusk photograph of an innovation district with sustainable infrastructure. The result is highly detailed and integrated, a sweeping dusk render that captures the innovation district's identity, blending sustainable infrastructure with urban vibrancy. It shows how AI can elevate district-level planning into immersive atmospheric visualizations.
Can we visualize a small city center or district with community amenities and sustainable features? Absolutely! This prompt does exactly that. It's modular, so you can add or remove variables as placeholders, depending on what you want to highlight. Simply copy the structure, insert any image, and refine the variables to suit your project. For this example, I started with a basic massing model. My final prompt reads, visualize the evolution of a cultural and commercial hub from the provided massing model into a vibrant daytime photograph, highlighting outdoor performance spaces and energy-efficient buildings. The result is brilliant, a lively daytime render that integrates culture, commerce, and sustainability. It shows how AI can instantly transform massing into a fully realized district vision, complete with performance spaces and energy-efficient design.
This is a perfectly simple prompt that can turn any image into an entire cityscape. You can even start with everyday objects or sketches and evolve them into urban environments. The structure is modular. Just insert a base image, remove the variables you don't need, keep the ones you want, and generate. For this example, my final prompt reads, convert the massing model into a realistic illuminated night photograph of a mixed-income residential block. The result is striking, a quick yet powerful way to generate a conceptual city with illuminated forms and a vibrant nighttime atmosphere. It shows how AI can instantly transform massing into immersive cityscapes.
This prompt is perfect for designing historic downtowns. It's modular, so you can set variables like district type, pedestrian experience, and architectural character. The input can be anything: a real-time photo, a street image, a sketch, or even a master plan. Just copy the structure, swap or adjust the variables, and generate. For this example, I used a real-time picture. My final prompt reads, develop a photorealistic rendering streetscape view of a historic downtown at tranquil evening, emphasizing public seating and Art Deco detailing. The result is amazing. The generated image looks even more real than the original photo. It captures the tranquil evening atmosphere, the pedestrian-friendly seating, and the Art Deco detailing that gives the downtown its unique character. It's a striking demonstration of how AI can elevate everyday inputs into immersive urban heritage visualizations.
This prompt lets you play with lighting conditions, surrounding environments, and even add people with a chosen color palette. It's perfect if you want to test how familiar landmarks would look in unexpected or imaginative settings. The structure is simple. Copy the prompt, insert an image, and adjust the variables to suit your vision. For this example, I used an image of the Colosseum, one of my favorite buildings. My final prompt reads, enhance realism and composition, add precise visual details that define the scene, a historic landmark in a sunset with waterfront promenade people, dynamic and active. The result is magnificent. It transforms the Colosseum into a surreal yet believable environment with sunset lighting, waterfront ambiance, and active crowds. It's a striking demonstration of how AI can recontextualize history into new, vibrant worlds. Honestly, I wish this version of the Colosseum existed in real life.
This prompt is especially useful if you want to convert modern facades into historical elevations or redesign historical facades. It's modular, so you can copy the structure, remove the variables you don't need, and keep the ones that fit your project. Inputs can be anything from industrial buildings to commercial blocks or even large developments.
For this example, I used an industrial building as input. My final prompt reads, create a detailed architectural elevation rendering of a commercial building facade, focusing on the integration of ornate window treatments rendered in a watercolor sketch style. The result is beautiful. The watercolor sketch style adds softness and artistry, while the ornate window treatments give the facade a historical richness. It shows how AI can reimagine utilitarian structures into elegant, heritage-inspired designs. This prompt is especially effective for converting classical designs into modern elevations. It's modular, so you can swap variables to specify which historical elements you want to reinterpret and which modern materials or techniques you want to introduce. For this example, my input was a classical elevation. My final prompt reads, generate this into an architectural rendering of a historic public library facade, where classical columns and ornate window treatments are reimagined with lightweight composites, shown in a photorealistic detail. The result is a hybrid design, retaining the dignity of classical architecture while introducing modern composites and detailing. It demonstrates how AI can bridge tradition and innovation, producing facades that feel both timeless and contemporary.
This is a modular prompt for redesigning historical elevations. The structure is simple. Copy the full prompt, then keep the variables or placeholders you want, whether classical features, stylistic motifs, or rendering techniques, and remove the rest. It's flexible enough to adapt to any building image, from residential townhouses to larger developments. For this example, I used a residential picture. My final prompt reads, convert this into a detailed architectural elevation rendering of a residential townhouse facade, focusing on the integration of ornate window treatments and decorative balconies. The design should incorporate historical motifs rendered in a watercolor sketch style. The result is a beautifully detailed render. Ornate windows, decorative balconies, and historical motifs all brought to life with the softness of watercolor sketching. It shows how AI can transform everyday facades into richly articulated, heritage-inspired designs.
This prompt is designed for historical interventions in modern buildings, producing blended styles that merge heritage character with contemporary upgrades. So you can copy the structure and swap variables depending on the project, whether you want to emphasize classical detailing, modern materials, or specific facade treatments. For this example, I used a modern institutional building as input. My final prompt reads, develop this into an architectural rendering of a heritage building facade, incorporating ornate cornices while introducing integrated lighting, presented in a photorealistic style with historic textures and modern overlays. The result is impressive. The ornate cornices and historic textures blend seamlessly with the integrated lighting and modern overlays. It demonstrates how AI can visualize hybrid facades that respect tradition while embracing innovation.
This prompt is designed to transform unfinished structures into completed ones, or to experiment with how they might look if they followed a different architectural concept. With variables for material palette, finish type, architectural features, and lighting, so you can adapt it to any building image, whether under construction or partially complete. For this example, I used a picture of an ongoing classical house project. My final prompt reads, render this into completed Art Deco-influenced public institution with a vibrant jewel tones exterior, featuring intricate stone carvings and prominent tall arched windows. The scene is set at overcast and misty morning, with soft, uniform lighting and subtle dust motes floating in the light beams, evoking an inviting and cozy atmosphere. The result is stunning. The unfinished house is reimagined as a bold Art Deco institution with jewel-tone finishes, ornate carvings, and atmospheric lighting. It's both surprising and inspiring, showing how AI can instantly visualize alternative futures for incomplete projects.
This prompt is designed for renovating old interiors while selectively preserving original features. It's modular, so you can choose variables for modern use, new materials, and the elements you want to restore. Simply copy the structure, adjust the variables, and apply it to any interior image. For this example, I used a photo of an old building interior. My final prompt reads,
Generate this into a photorealistic interior render of a colonial house that has been luxury residence, highlighting the contrast between aged wood and polished concrete and original fireplace. The result is powerful. The fireplace is preserved as a focal point, while polished concrete and aged wood create a striking contrast. It shows how AI can visualize renovations that respect heritage while introducing modern luxury.
This prompt is for experimental and futuristic architecture. It lets you visualize sketches, concept pictures, or conceptual masses in speculative settings. The structure includes variables like futuristic building use, speculative environments, material technologies, and biomimetic forms, so you can mix and match depending on your vision. For this example, I used a Star Wars concept image as input. My final prompt reads, "Generate a photorealistic image of an underwater research station in a floating ocean colony, showcasing self-healing concrete and fractal geometries at glowing internal light." The result is mesmerizing, a detailed cinematic render that feels like it belongs in a sci-fi universe. The self-healing concrete and fractal geometries create a futuristic aesthetic, while the glowing internal light adds atmosphere. Honestly, it looks like something that could be used straight out of Star Wars.
Want to turn your high-rise concepts or massing models into futuristic buildings? This prompt does exactly that. It's modular, with variables to define architectural structure, environmental changes, kinetic elements, and interactive surfaces. Simply copy the base prompt, adjust the variables, and generate. For this example, I started with a conceptual sketch of a building. My final prompt reads, "Create this into a concept art rendering of an adaptive tower that responds to temperature fluctuation, utilizing retractable membranes and smart material responses." The result is amazing, a visionary tower that feels alive, adapting to its environment with kinetic membranes and responsive materials. It shows how AI can instantly reimagine static massing into dynamic, futuristic architecture. Interested in blending your institutional project with futuristic architecture? This prompt gets you there. It's modular, so you can define variables like institution type, location, biosphere protocols, environmental impact, and self-sufficient systems. Inputs can be anything: a real-time image, sketch, plan, or massing model. Just copy the structure, swap the variables, and generate. For this example, I used a parametric mass as input. My final prompt reads, "Develop this massing of a scientific outpost in a remote island, designed with sterile environments and recyclable materials, featuring atmospheric water generation." The result is fantastic, a futuristic outpost that feels both visionary and grounded, with sterile labs, recyclable materials, and atmospheric water generation seamlessly integrated. It shows how AI can visualize institutional projects as self-sufficient, sustainable environments.
This prompt is for introducing immersive, futuristic digital environments into any project. It's modular, giving you variables to play with. Environment type, AR experiences, futuristic functions, interactive surfaces, and lighting. You can use any interior image as input, real, conceptual, or even a plan. Then simply copy the structure and adjust the variables to suit your vision. For this example, I used a conceptual interior image. My final prompt reads, "Visualize a holographic meeting room with interactive floor projections and dynamic data visualizations, designed for remote social interaction rendered with laser-like accents." The result is powerful, a photorealistic digital environment where holograms, projections, and glowing accents create a futuristic meeting space. It shows how AI can transform interiors into immersive, collaborative hubs for remote interaction.
This prompt is tailored for rapid deployment architectural structures. It's modular, so you can define variables like modular building systems, deployment type, flexible configurations, and sustainable materials. Simply copy the structure, select any input, whether a sketch, plan, or massing image, and adjust the variables to suit your project. For this example, I used a massing image. My final prompt reads, generate this into a detailed technical illustration of a temporary event structure designed for easy transport, highlighting its adaptability to different sites, reclaimed steel frames, and solar-powered systems. The result is fantastic, a precise technical illustration that shows how temporary structures can be both adaptable and sustainable. It demonstrates how AI can visualize rapid deployment systems as lightweight, transportable, and environmentally responsible solutions. This prompt is designed to transform organic architectural forms into exciting futuristic designs. It's modular with variables for render type, topography, design principles, and adaptive technologies. You can start with any input, an image, plan, shape, or massing, then copy the structure and adjust the variables to suit your vision. For this example, I used a parametric massing. My final prompt reads, convert this into a highly detailed and dramatic render of undulating surfaces that blend seamlessly with a river valley using algorithmic generation of forms and mycelium-grown structures. The result is absolutely insane, a futuristic design that feels alive, blending seamlessly with the environment. The undulating surfaces, algorithmic forms, and mycelium structures create a sophisticated space that's both organic and visionary. It's a perfect example of how AI can elevate parametric inputs into immersive, futuristic landscapes.
And that wraps up our journey through more than 100 architectural prompts, each one unlocking new ways to imagine, design, and transform the built environment. From historic facades to futuristic towers, from unfinished structures to immersive digital worlds, we've seen how prompts can turn ideas into powerful visualizations. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and support our work. It helps us keep creating and sharing more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to prompting the future of architecture together.